Hello YouTube. Now I know this video is gonna be very different than the normal content that I produce in this channel. However, with the Dark Souls Remaster quickly approaching, both my Facebook and my Reddit feeds have been bombarded with comments about the upcoming game. While reading through these comments, I quickly noticed that one of the most popular activities is to trash the Nintendo Switch version of the game. And I cannot in good conscience let that happen. Look, I have 3 boys that stop being a nuisance as soon as I let them play the damn thing. So it is quite easy to see why I love the Switch so much. So I thought I would defend the console and offer my top 10 reasons to buy the Dark Souls Remaster for the Nintendo Switch. Number 10. As I mentioned before, I have 3 small boys. And even though the 2 oldest have already been introduced to the Dark Souls franchise, heck, there's even a video in my channel where I do exactly that, I would venture that a good portion of the households that own a Switch and a PC, or a Switch and another console, tend to use a Switch for kiddie games, and the alternative for more adult content, making it more difficult to get the kids interested in Soulsborne games. However, by purchasing the Dark Souls Remaster for the Switch, one can finally bridge that gap and easily introduce your kids to the wondrous land of Lordran, without them potentially being put off by them having to play it in the adult console. Number 9. Related to the previous point, it is undeniable that more young'uns are going to play the Switch version of the game than any other. So, considering that the Souls community is chock full of bloodthirsty, sadistic psychopaths, I think this is a plus. Just imagine the salt that one will generate by invading these 10-12-year-olds in Undead Burg and obliterating them even if they have their little Head Start squad with them. Their pure blood will serve as a sacrifice to our great Lord Koth. Number 8. Now I would like to focus on a different area of the industry, funding. I know, here I come with the boring stuff, but hear me out. It is undeniable that this version of the game will drastically expand the reach and audience for From Software, as the cross-section of individuals that have been exposed to the Souls franchise and those that use the Switch on a regular basis, I don't think are as large as the ones for PS4, Xbox One, or PC. So, a bigger audience means more funding for FromSoft. More funding for FromSoft means either more games or more ambitious titles, both of which I'm very heavily interested in. Number 7. Now, let's talk about the second elephant in the room with the Switch, as we are going to ignore the hardware's performance. Ever since the introduction of the Wii back in 2006, Nintendo has bet pretty big in motion control, and the Switch is no exception with the Joy-Cons. If we consider the fact that we presented in previous points that the audience that will be exposed to this title will be so radically different, and we also consider that the possible control scheme might be so massively different because of the Joy-Cons, then the success of this version of the game might encourage From Software to expand their scope, in turn generating more diverse and creative titles that they might not have otherwise engaged in. They might also use this opportunity to engage into some more unorthodox control schemes. Number 6. Up to this point, I have focused more heavily onto what this title might do for From Software, which is one of my priorities, I will not lie. But now I also want to consider what the success of this title might do for Nintendo. Now, it is obvious for anyone paying attention to the library of Switch games that Nintendo is not interested in committing the sin of alienating third-party developers this time around, as they did previously with the Wii and Wii U. However, what I find more interesting is that Nintendo appears to be more focused in trying to engage with a more mature audience by presenting some titles like Doom and Wolfenstein. Now, while they're already trying to do this kind of more mature focus on the Switch, The success of Dark Souls Remaster might spur Nintendo on this endeavor, and just have them push more mature titles onto their flagship console. And I'm sure most of you will agree this is a great thing. Number 5. I have to be completely honest right now with you. I deliberately put off talking about the main talking point that the Switch version of the remaster has. So if you're still here and you have not yet clicked out to watch Angry Joe or Mad Pat, then let me introduce you to the one quality that makes this version of the game such a mouth-watering proposition. Just think about it. The Switch version of the Dark Souls Remaster is the only version of the game where we can invade some noobs in Darkroot Garden while we go to the can. So yeah, we can now metaphorically shit on other players while we take a literal shit in real life. What a time to be alive! All joking aside, the portability of this version of the game is probably its greatest selling point. And you, as a Souls fan, cannot tell me that you would not enjoy being able to take Lordran on the go and make your commute to work in public transport, or those dead periods in college, at least a little bit more enjoyable. Number 4. This point is directly related to the previous point, as portability has certain byproducts. Now let me paint a pretty picture. You're going to a doctor's appointment where you know that you're going to have to wait for a while. So you take your trusty Switch to kill some time while fighting Ornstein and Smo. Well, while in the middle of the heated battle, another guy, girl, boy, whatever, peeks over your shoulder looking at the amazing battle that is taking place. Now, Dark Souls is a very flashy game, so it is very obviously going to catch the attention of the onlookers. So, a question arises in the mind of the spectator. What is this awesome looking game? And the answer will inevitably be, it's Dark Souls, bitch! Now this kind of free publicity is very important for any game, and it would make me happy that more and more people got interested in the Souls series. Number 3. As a result of the announcement of the Switch version of the Dark Souls Remaster, a very exciting prospect was revealed by the company. The Solaire Amiibo. Now, regardless of anyone's stance of how Amiibos have arguably become Nintendo's version of DLC, an insidious microtransaction method, it is undeniable that the quality of these little Amiibos is very high, especially considering the price one pays for them. And also if you consider the fact that most of them open some sort of functionality within Nintendo games. Hell, just considering the high quality of the product, I know of more than a handful of players that even though they do not own a Switch, they will still buy these Amiibo just to own the great statuette. And who can blame them? Just look at him, praising the sun in all of his plasticky glory. Number 2. Following the reveal of the Solaire Amiibo that we mentioned in the previous point, a lot of speculation has arisen regarding Nintendo's Smash fighting series, Super Smash Bros. If we consider that even Solid Snake has been a member of the roster in the past, it is not a stretch to think that the sun-stricken Paladin might be added to the Nintendo Switch's Smash Bros. Character list. And as a longtime fan of the Smash Bros. Series, as well as a massive Dark Souls fan, I would lie if I did not admit that the prospect of having Solaire kick some plumber butt is exhilarating. Number 1. Now, my number 1 reason to support the Dark Souls Remaster on the Switch has to do with how developers work. As we all know, a big reason developers use ports is to gauge a new market and see if it would be profitable to develop new games for that particular market or console. A good example of this is Bethesda using Skyrim, their most profitable intellectual property, to gauge if it would be worth it to port or generate any new games for any new particular platform. While having this in mind, I do not think that From Software's case is too dissimilar. And who knows, if the Dark Souls Remaster does well on the Switch, I think we could expect ports of Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin, as well as the Fire Fates edition of Dark Souls 3. and I find it very hard to argue that this would not be an awesome thing. Not only for FromSoft, but for all of us Dark Souls fans. So, if this ends up happening in the future, you all know what that means, right? We will now be able to shit on players in Gang City while we take a little shit. So that's it for today, YouTube. Let me know what you think about this video and if you like this kind of new content. Also, let me know if you're gonna get the Switch version of the game, even though I know my comment section will be permeated with PC Master Race comments, essentially mentioning the 30 frames per second and really low resolution in the Switch. But, you know, that's besides the point. Also, let me know if you're interested in me making more videos like this one. I know this is not my usual thing, but like I said, I found something interesting that I wanted to talk about and I just went for it. Remember that if you like the video, you can give it a thumbs up. It really supports the channel. And if you like this kind of content, consider subscribing to the channel. I try to upload fairly frequently, even though real life gets in the way most of the time. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. This is Cheps, and I will see you soon.